Good evening, everyone. It's Shah Banerjee here. So, for our visual culture end semester project, we are going to be focusing on the crossroads of Bangalore. The crossroads that we have taken into consideration are Hulimavu Gate, Church Street, KR Market, Mekri Circle, and Kormangala HSR layout. Now, what is important to understand is why did we take crossroads for a visual culture project? Because the reason is that crossroads are something that we access every day. Crossroads are something that we go through every day. We are accessing it, we are availing it to reach various places, to hang out, and various other stuffs. So this place becomes like a part of our daily necessities. This becomes so. What is important to understand is that. Even though we go through these crossroads, we never really analyze them. We don't understand the power politics that goes on, the spatiality in these, the visual manipulations that are going on, various other stuff. So, we are through this project, we are trying to study these crossroads that are so important in our lives, and yet we don't pay attention to. So now, what is important is that why did we take these crossroads into consideration? Why did we take these particular uh, crossroads into consideration. For now, we have worked on two crossroads, so I'm going to be talking about these two. Later on, we will be, by the end semester project, we'll be focusing on the others as well. Hulimawu Gate, because all of us are college students of Christ, right? So, for that, in order to reach Christ, we need to avail the Hulimawu Gate, and that becomes Hulimawu Gate becomes a very central point of all the students who are from Christ. So this gate is something that we access every day, that we are part of every day. We are moving around here. There's this construction going on. There are shops and there are other stuffs as well. And the college going students, there are pedestrians, there are hawkers. So this place is filled with life. And so this becomes very important. This place that is very important to us is something that we want to analyze. Second is Church Street. Church Street has the same materials, but there's a difference. Church Street, here the stuffs are also there, the same elements are there, but the type of elements are different. Like, instead of, there are people, but they are college students, but here they are not as college students. Here they are as visitors, they are as people who are here to buy stuff. Here they are as friends, here they are as tourists, etc. And Church Street is the commercial capital of Bangalore, so it is very important to understand. This is the place we go to party. This is also the place we go for our do about stuffs, to enjoy and buy, buy generally uh, high class products. Products that have high social value. So this is the place we come to. So this space also becomes very important and a necessity to study.
I will be talking about intersection of diversity in Bangalore Crossroads. Crossroads are complex and diverse phenomena where identities meet, and it has significant impact on the social, cultural, and economic structures of the city. This intersection also plays a role in shaping the power dynamics and social structures of the city, as well as contributing to the issues such as discrimination and inequality. The following are the intersections. Intersection of caste and class. It is one of the most significant intersection identities in Bangalore. It is seen in many ways, including the segregation of neighborhoods based on caste and dominance of certain castes in certain industries, and the prevalence of certain caste-based networks in political and social spheres. Secondly, the intersection of language and religion. Even with rich ethnic and cultural diversity, people can be seen coexisting and celebrating different religious festivals and sharing a cultural practice among different groups. Intersection of gender and sexuality. Crossroads brings into light the different challenges faced by marginalized groups such as transgender individuals who face discrimination, stigma, and marginalization due to the intersection of their gender identity and sexual orientation. Recognizing the intersection of identities in Bangalore's crossroad is important for understanding the diverse experience and perspectives of its residents. It requires us to move beyond simplistic categorization of identity and to acknowledge the ways in which different identities interact and intersect to shape the people's experience and perspectives. In conclusion, the intersection of identities in Bangalore Crossroads is a complex, multifaceted phenomenon that plays a major role in shaping the social, cultural, and economic fabric of the city. Understanding and addressing the intersection of these various identities is essential for creating a just and equitable society.
So, yeah, while viewing the crossroads, we can incorporate Foucault's concept of power dynamics by recognizing the ways in which power operates at these intersection points. As per Foucault, power is not something that is possessed by individuals or society, but it is a pervasive force that is dispersed throughout society and embedded in social relationships and institutions. Power operates through a variety of mechanisms such as norms, institutions, and discourses. All this shape the way we think, behave, and relate to one another. Power is not just something that is imposed from above, but it is something that is internalized and embodied by individuals through their participation in social practices. Foucault also emphasized the importance of resistance and struggle in power dynamics. While looking at the crossroads of Bangalore, we'll first focus on the role of norms and institutions. At the crossroads, different paths may be governed by social norms and institutional rules that that shape the options available to individuals. For example, cultural expectations about gender roles, class distinctions, or racial stereotypes may limit or expand the choices that people have at the crossroads. Secondly, we look at the role of discourses and language. The language we use to describe the crossroads can also shape the way we think about our choices and opportunities. For example, some discourses may present the crossroads as a moment of individual agency and empowerment, while others may emphasize the constraints and limitations imposed by external forces. And lastly, we look at the productive power of crossroads. Foucault's concept of power dynamics reminds us that crossroads is not just a site of repression and constraint, but also a space where new possibilities and realities can emerge. At the crossroads, different paths intersect and create new connections and meanings that may challenge the existing power relations and open up new avenues for action and change. So, in this way, we can understand the complex social and cultural factors that operate in this context.
Now I'll be talking about Crossroads as a heterotopic space. Uh, Heterotopia as a concept was introduced by French philosopher Michel Foucault. He refers to physical spaces or places that exist outside of the normal social and cultural norms and structures. These spaces are often seen as other or different from the surrounding society, and they can be both physical and mental spaces. Uh, the crossroads of Bangalore can be studied as a heterotopic space where different spaces and spatial practices coexist and intersect with each other. Drawing an analogy from the garden example, the crossroads can be seen as a microcosm of society where people, car, shops, police, lampposts, and other spatial elements come together to create a spatial and dynamic environment. Despite these mechanisms of governance, the heterotopic nature of the crossroads allows for the possibility of subversion and resistance. For example, street art and graffiti can be used as a means of expressing dissent and challenging dominant narratives. Similarly, street vending and other informal spatial practices can be seen as a way of resisting the formalized and regulated spatial practices of the state and business. These crossroads also create a sense of otherness or difference, which is central to the concept of heterotopia. The physical space of crossroads is often characterized by spatial configuration that enables multiple activities and uses to coexist, creating a sense of ambiguity and fluidity. Thus, this heterogeneity is often reflected in the diverse groups of people who use these spaces, including pedestrians, vehicles, and street vendors. And lastly, crossroads in Bangalore especially also embody the tension between tradition and modernity, as well as the negotiation of power relations. For example, KR Market is one of the oldest and busiest marketplaces in the city. It's also a site where traditional modes of commerce and exchange intersect with modern forms of globalization and consumerism. Similarly, Church Street, which is known for its vibrant nightlife and food culture, is a site where traditional urban practices intersect with new forms of global culture and leisure.
Okay, so first we'll be dealing with Henry Lefebvre's theory of production of space. So Henry Lefebvre's theory of production of space is a complex and multifaceted theory that spans across many disciplines. So we'll be dealing with five major points from that theory. So firstly, space is a social construct. So according to Lefebvre, space is not a natural or neutral entity but is instead produced through social relations and processes. He argues that space is created and transformed by various social forces including economical, political, cultural and technological factors. The production of space is a historical process. That is the second heading. Lefebvre emphasizes that the production of space is a historical process that evolves over time. Different historical periods produce different spatial forms and social relations reflecting the dominant forces of each era. Third, spatial practice, representations, and representational spaces. Lefebvre identifies three interrelated aspects of the production of space. First, spatial practice refers to the ways in which people use and interact the space on a daily basis. Secondly, representations of space refers to the symbolic meanings and cultural values that people attach to different spaces. Finally, representational spaces refers to the dominant spatial forms that emerge from the interplay between spatial practice and representations. Fourth, the dialectic of space. So Lefebvre argues that the production of space is characterized by a dialectical relationship between spatial practice and representations. This dialectic produces new spatial forms and social relations that are both shaped by and shape the dominant social forces of a given period. And lastly, the right to the city. Lefebvre's theory of the production of space is ultimately concerned with the question of social justice and the right to the city. He argues that everyone has the right to participate in the production of space and to shape the spatial environment in ways that meet their needs and desires. So next we're going to see 5 points of relationship between Henry Lefebvre's theory of production of space and crossroads. So here are the five possible points. First, crossroads as a spatial product. According to Lefebvre, space is not just a passive backdrop for human activities, but it is an actively produced and shaped by social relations and past struggles. Crossroads can be seen as one of the spatial products that result from this production process, as they are the result of the intersection of different paths and movements, and they reflect the social and economic dynamics of the surrounding area. Secondly, crossroads as a site of encounter and interaction. Lefebvre argues that space is not just a physical entity, but it is also a social and cultural construct that shapes the way we perceive and experience the world. Crossroads can be seen as a site of encounter and interaction between different social groups as they bring together people from different backgrounds and with with different interests and perspectives. Um, Crossroads as a contested space, Lefebvre emphasizes the role of power relations and conflicts in the production of space as different social groups compete for control over resources and territories. Crossroads can be seen as a contested space as different actors may have different visions and interests regarding its use and development. Lastly, Crossroads as a space of mobility and circulation, Lefebvre highlights the importance of mobility and circulation in the production of space as they enable the flow of goods, people, and information that shape the spatial organization of a society. Crossroads can be seen as a keynote of this network of movements as they allow for the intersection and connection of different flows and trajectories. Lastly, Crossroads as a site of symbolic representation. Lefebvre also emphasizes the role of symbolic representation in the production of space, as different spatial forms and practices carry cultural and political meanings that shape our sense of identity and belonging. Crossroads can be seen as a site of symbolic representation, as they may embody different values and aspirations depending on the social context and historical content.
So, in case of Church Street, what is also important is one of the visual culture theories that we had studied is the right to look, and this becomes important because when I was actually shooting Church Street, I was going through various locations, I was shooting different people, but all of a sudden, when it came to the police, I had this weird fear that if I get caught shooting them, it might get different. It might become very difficult, and I was feeling this. There was this weird repression that was occurring within me, so I could understand that these are the people. So you know the power politics, how it works. So basically these are the people who are supposed to be observing on us. We are not supposed to be observing them. So when I was recording it, I if you can see the when you will see the video, you'll realize I've added a screenshot to this slide that we are not supposed to look at them. They are supposed to look at us because they are the state machinery. They hold power. They can do stuff to us that we cannot do to them. Like we are accountable. Sometimes they are not because of the history of police in India, and we all know that, whatever goes on. So when I was recording it, if you see the video, that I'll like quickly remove the camera from their face as soon as I was just trying to get a shot. I tried to take a shot, and as soon as possible, I removed the camera. So it's very important that we understand the different power relations that are taking place, and right to look in this case with the dynamics of the police and the common people in a crossroad becomes very important.
Hi, I'm Adira Yasin, and I'll be talking about some different visuality aspects of the crossroads. During the field trip for our assignment, we realized that not everybody gets to experience crossroads in the same light. I'll be taking the aid of Nicholas Misrov's essay, The Right to Look, to explain the power dynamics of crossroads. The crossroads can be seen as a site of contestation and negotiation between different cultures, where power relations are constantly being renegotiated. Different people from different financial, gender, professional backgrounds visualize crossroads differently. For instance, crossroads can be seen as a site of gender expression for Hijra community, an economic hub for the people who sell small commodities, power and authority figure for people who work for traffic police, institutionalization for the authorities who institutionalize traffic signals and signs. If you notice some high end areas with a huge market, the crossroads roads are as significant as the area. And if we visualize the crossroads of an area that is not an economic hub, or let's say an important IT section, the area and the crossroads are not as developed. So the crossroads dynamics change according to the area around it. Um, we can also study that the statues erected in the crossroads play an important role. The statues are constructed at crossroads for a variety of reasons, depending on the cultural and historical context. In some cases, statues are erected to commemorate a specific event or person, such as a historical figure or a local hero. But the question arises is that who's hero and who's deity? Crossroads promote the narrative of the dominant ideology. The infrastructure of crossroads has changed significantly in the post colonial era. As many countries sought to develop their own transportation and communication systems. In the pre colonial societies, crossroads were often important gathering places for trades and social interaction. They were often located at the intersection of major trade routes and were used as the hub for exchange of goods and ideas. In some cultures, crossroads were also used as a site for religious ceremonies. Such a thing cannot be seen now. Today, the involvement of construction of new roads, highways, and bridges has impacted the power dynamics of crossroads. The post colonial era also saw significant change in the social and cultural landscapes of crossroads. A new transportation system were built. Many traditional crossroads were replaced by modern highways and intersections, which often lack the cultural and spiritual significance of their predecessors. But the post colonial era also saw the rise of new social and political movement that sought to challenge the dominant narrative and power structures. Therefore, I would like to conclude with the final thought that crossroads have continued to be an important site for analyzing, the visual culture in the post colonial era, as it performs a dynamic role in the negotiation of power and construction of identities. Thank you.